Tavern Tales across Faerun's sunlit lands whisper of the Underdark, a lightless, subterranean realm that is home to fabled races and ancient, unspeakable evil. It is a domain of primeval mysteries and unending war, a hidden world of cruel masters and hopeless slaves, filled with monstrous races that were old before humans were born. So dire is the reputation of the Underdark and its denizens that mothers caution their children to behave, lest the dark elves steal them away. A proper account of the Underdark must include the cold machinations of the hateful Illithids, the unwholesome cities of the drow elves who pay homage to the bitter Spider Queen, and the unending servitude of the lesser creatures that fall into the clutches of these two races. Unlike the upper world, where civilization and the light of day protect travelers from horrors, the Underdark holds the promise of deadly peril. Illithids, drow and aboleths vie for supremacy in its dark tunnels and sunless seas. They fight one another with armies of slaves, terrible and ancient magic, and mind-shattering psionics for control of the encompassing tunnel systems and the extended caverns, vaults, cavities, gaps, and nodes that riddle the earth beneath Faerun. The Underdark is an entire world. Most of it is inhabited by monstrous and evil creatures that shun the daylight. Hundreds of independent cities, towns, and strongholds are scattered throughout the caves and caverns that make up this realm. Tunnels in the Underdark extend for miles, some ballooning into caverns thousands of feet across, only to shrink to spaces too narrow for a halfling to squeeze through. The largest cavern halls are often representations of the surface in miniature, with hills, valleys, underground rivers, and lakes. Most races native to this realm make use of walls and ceilings of their caverns, accessing the higher levels via natural or magical flight, or even wall-crawling mounts such as spiders and certain breeds of lizards. The Underdark is divided into 3 levels. The Upper Underdark, which is close to the surface, and its residents have considerable interaction with surface races. The inhabitants of the Middle Underdark tend to see surface races as potential slaves. The Lower Underdark is an incredibly strange place filled with alien societies and bizarre cultures, hostile to those unlike them. In this video, we will discuss the magic of the Underdark, environment, Underdark domains, and some of the mysterious creatures that live within this vast landscape. The Underdark eclipses all surface world locations in terms of the sheer power of its magic and its alien and frightening psionics. Who doesn't fear the deity, channeled malice, and might of Lolth's clerics? Worse yet are the Mind Flayers, whose psionic and magical superiority over most other races is as terrifying as their sinister appetites. Less well known, and therefore more mysterious, are the aboleths of the Lower Dark, which harbour secrets of ancient lore within their alien, unfathomable minds. Beyond what is generally known or rumoured, the Underdark shelters a wealth of strange power and magic. The long-hidden deep Imaskari still know spells that levelled kingdoms in ages past. Finally, there is the whispered rumour of node magic, a secret lore that allows those with the proper training to channel the power from the earth itself. Many parts of the Underdark of Faerun are suffused with a magical radiation that the drow call Faer's, a remnant of the mighty forces that originally shaped the terrain of the Underdark. This magical radiation distorts and interferes with certain types of magic. The effects of these spells are not widely known among surface-dwelling creatures. Areas of this magical essence can be found here and there throughout the Underdark. The drow have long sought out places of powerful Faer's in which to raise their cities, since the magical radiation helps to frustrate spying and protect against enemy assaults. Node magic taps the natural pools and streams of power that collect and run below the earth. The power is not visible to the unpracticed eye, but those with appropriate sensitivity know that collection points called earth nodes are awash with power, that can increase the effects and produce other magical effects. Earth nodes are rare and cherished points in the Underdark, and their discoverers jealously guard the knowledge of them. However, many Earth nodes that possess no natural outlet to the greater tunnel systems of the Underdark remain undiscovered, and others are simply unappreciated by the Underdark creatures that live in or near them. The Underdark is a demanding environment to say the least, so the races that make it their home must be unusually inventive and clever to survive. Travelers, too, face obstacles and enemies unlike any they might find in the surface world. To overcome these difficulties, clever adventurers and Underdark natives have created many new items, ranging from mundane weapons and armor in unusual styles to extraordinary, powerful magic devices. Gnomes, as the typical inventors of Faerun, have developed a spring-loaded weapon that fires darts with great accuracy and force. Deep gnomes favor the dart thruster because it is able to hold up to 3 darts at a time. With the dangers of the Underdark, the ability to adapt and react effortlessly cannot be understated. The Drow are notorious as the Underdark's most prolific and elaborate creators of magic items, but Illithids also create items of power, most of which draws their energy from the minds of their users. Other races, especially the Duergar and the Derro, are quite skilled in the art of item creation as well, and they work industriously to bolster their armories of magic. Though few realize it, the wizard-born of Deep Imaskar are heirs to secrets of magic item creation and their ancient, vanished empire, although their lore is now but a shadow of what it once was. The morphing is a weapon of supreme adaptability. The wielder of a morphing weapon can reshape it in any other weapon of the same type. For instance, a morphing longsword could become a battle axe or composite longbow. The magic as to why it retains these states is unknown even to the wielder. The Illithid raw armor is another fantastical item. It is common enough within Illithid-controlled areas, but they are little known in the world beyond. Such armors sometimes seem to have minds of their own, moving and shifting almost imperceptibly, even when not worn. The cephalometer measures the creature's head size via 2 inwardly curved iron projections. This psionically empowered caliper can dominate the mind of the wearer, resulting in the perfect slave. In addition to the domination of the subject's mind, the cephalometer can conduct a probing of the mind, in which all the memories and knowledge are accessible to the Illithid. This has resulted in spies from other races giving up valuable information on strikes of Illithid strongholds. The treasuries of the Drow, Illithids, and the other powerful races conceal a number of potent artifacts. The Amask Arcana books were 7 tremendously powerful magic tomes. These were from the people of the Imaskari and were lost long ago. Records mentioning them have shown up with just enough regularity to convince sages that these books must have once existed. These tomes are massive and abound in slate covers lined with blue dragon skin. Its pages vary in composition and appearance. Some are raggedly cut vellum, others are made from the skin of humans, elves, and other creatures. Anyone who carries one of these tomes gains a complete resistance to magical effects and danger towards them. These tomes can't be read like standard tomes. Instead, it must be asked in the native language in Rushum, the native language of the Imaskar. Anyone who is able to communicate effectively with this tome is granted amazing control over minds of creatures and is able to wield fire in massive states with little effort. The surface world is marked by mighty mountains, high plateaus, and vast plains. The Underdark possesses none of these features, but it does have physical features of its own. Unlike the surface world, the Underdark is uniquely 3-dimensional. Knowing the direction of true north is not enough to navigate the realms below. A traveller must also know the depth underground of their destination. It is possible to find the correct coordinates but still be several miles too deep or too shallow. Many of the Underdark's features can be explained as nothing more than the results of purely physical forces, albeit sometimes on a grand scale. Other features would be unlikely or even impossible in worlds where magic, elementals, planar interstices, and divine caprice did not help to shape the deep places. The Underdark, simply put, consists of a linked network of several titanic cave systems. The Underdark also encompasses areas of deep water that hide coral caves, hollowed out sections of ice in which creatures live, and places where fungus, bone, or even pure force-formed caves exist. Underdark terrain is dynamic and changeable. A map drawn a few decades ago may show tunnels that have long since collapsed, or lakes that are now dry. Terrain can change gradually over the course of decades, centuries, and millennia, or swiftly as a result of an earthquake or volcanic eruption. Walking through wild caves without end is different than stalking monsters in a dungeon near the surface. Travelers venturing into the Underdark enter a world in which nothing can be taken for granted. Vast portions of the realms below are wastelands devoid of food, water, and even light. Except for lanterns and natural light sources, the Underdark, for the most part, is absolute darkness. This darkness can unnerve even the most experienced adventurer. While most of the Underdark is exactly that, some locales possess sources of natural illumination. Luminescent growths, rare forms of lichen, fungi, and moss are bioluminescent. In sufficient quantities, these growths can illuminate large caverns. Most bioluminescent growths are quite dim, so a cavern illuminated by glowing moss or fungi is typically as dark as starlight, although some particularly bright regions might be equal to moonlight. Molten rock is found in exposed pools or streams of magma, which are illuminated by the dim, ruddy glow of molten rock. The glare of molten rock is typically equal to moonlight. In general, the Underdark is surprisingly well ventilated. Vast subterranean spaces and the rare planar connection to the elemental plane of air provide plenty of clean air for living creatures. However, this is not universally true. Sealed chambers, isolated caves, and water-isolated caverns have finite supplies of good air. Besides its many predatory races and monsters, the Underdark is also home to a variety of natural animals that live out their lives normally below the ground. These animals include, but are not limited to, bats, crickets, eyeless cave fish, rats, flies, and spiders. It is not unusual for creatures in the Upper Dark to encounter the occasional raccoon, frog, stray dog, or surface race being that has accidentally fallen down a deep shaft or well. Plants of one kind or another are the beginning of any food chain. By organizing inorganic minerals and capturing the energy of sunlight, plants create food that animals of all kinds depend on. Since plants in the Underdark do not have access to sunlight, they must make food by other means. Thus, most take very different forms than the green plants of the surface world. So, where does the fungus find its food? The answer is simple: magic. The natural magical radiation of the Underdark and its various planar connections support many weird fungal growths, as well as lichens, mosses, and other simple plants. In effect, Faerun is the sunlight of the Underdark, forming the basis of the subterranean food chain. Faerun's Underdark includes drow cavern cities, sunken aboleth strongholds, entire realms of mind flayers, and wondrous vistas shrouded in everlasting darkness. Uncounted hundreds, perhaps even thousands of deeply buried caverns and lightless cities exist beneath Faerun, and virtually every surface world dungeon seems to connect to murky depths from which all sorts of horrors can spew forth. Menzoberranzan, known as the City of Spiders, is the archetypal drow city, divided by a number of noble houses and ruled by priestesses of Lolth. Betrayal and assassination are a way of life here, and a cruel and suspicious nature is a sign of good breeding. The city itself has a population of somewhere between 12,000 free, mostly drow citizens, and around 20,000 slaves who range from goblins, grimlocks, kobolds, orcs, bugbears, humans, minotaurs, and trolls. Menzoberranzan has the dubious distinction of being one of the few drow cities located in the Upper Dark. Slavery is legal and socially favoured, and it permeates every district of the city. It is not legal to enslave other drow, but indentured servitude is practiced with gleeful malice. The drow of Menzoberranzan are universally hated and feared throughout the North Dark, and they in turn regard their neighbours with condescension and hungry ambition. Their merchant system is one of the best in the Underdark. Other cities have better markets, and some have more valuables. But in terms of total gold, no other settlement in the North Dark can match the mercantile might of the City of Spiders. The city caters to foreign merchants as much as necessary to get their money, but no further. Anyone who sets foot in the city is fair game for the warring noble houses, and visitors often become pawns in their schemes for power. The area around the city is laced with Faerun's res, which makes teleportation difficult at best and lethal at worst. Merchants with lots of cargo must either bring it down from the surface in caravans or bring it in through a nearby portal. Some 18 miles below the southern foothills of the Sword Mountains, practically underneath Waterdeep itself, lies Chittle, the primary mind flayer stronghold in the north. The city's conspicuous location makes its rulers cautious of their treatment of those living above, though their designs are just as evil as those of other mind flayers. Once a thriving Illithid metropolis of the North Dark, Chittle is now but a shadow of its former self. Despite its fallen status, it remains as an active outpost of mind flayers in a highly advantageous location, and it is poised to regain its former glories. This city has around 300 free mind flayers and Illithid liches and 1,000 thralls. Chittle was founded in 1154 DR by a cult of Illithids that planned the settlement as an adjunct to Skullport. The outpost quickly grew into a small city, and its elder brain began plotting the enslavement of nearby Waterdeep, a bastion of surface civilization. This plan was derailed more than 100 years ago when a surprise Githyanki attack led to the mortal injury of the elder brain. In desperation, a Ulithrid formed a plan to preserve the powers and memories of the elder brain through undeath. This Ulithrid transformed itself and several other Illithids into Illithid liches, and together, these new elders devoured the elder brain. This implanted part of the elder brain's lore within itself, but the excess knowledge drove the master insane. Splitting the elder brain's knowledge has proven almost as disastrous for the community as the loss of the elder brain. The Concord is fractious, and the city suffers regular and heavy losses from incursions by both adventurers and Githyanki. The Imaskari civilization was thought lost thousands of years ago, but in truth, the surviving Imaskari fled far underground and established the city of Deep Imaskar for themselves and their progeny. Using mighty magic, they managed to conceal their presence from the rest of the world for almost 40 centuries. Even now that the Great Seal that once isolated their city from the rest of the Underdark has been broken, the Deep Imaskari avoid contact with outsiders, dispatching only the most trustworthy and secretive of spies into the outer world after wiping the location of their home city from their minds. The population of this city is close to 50,000, all of which pertain to the Imaskari people. Deep Imaskar is an entirely self-sustaining city hidden deep in the northeast portions of the Earthroot. Though its population is quite large for the Underdark, its citizens do not trade with anyone from the outside, and they go to great efforts to keep the city's existence secret from its neighbours. The city is ruled by a High Lord Planner, who controls the city through a body of wizards known as the Planners. These individuals debate the long-term policies and growth of the city and its government. The Lord Apprehender and the Lord Enactor directly serve the High Planner. The Lord Apprehender oversees all information and resource gathering in the city, and his servants also maintain the city's magical defences. The Lord Enactor is charged with executing the Lord Planner's dictates, and their organisation enforces the laws of the city. Military prowess has nearly been forgotten in deep Imiskar. Weapon proficiency has devolved into a stylised form of dance that is only practised in live theatre. When force is needed to apprehend the occasional violent criminal, the enactors use magic. The Great Seal of the city is an enormous magic circle measuring 2,000 feet in diameter. Tens of thousands of smaller wards and protective circles have been laid inside the large circle and layered over one another, forming a diagram of staggering complexity. These wards protect the city from notice or intrusion from any direction and for nearly any reason. The circle even has an overwhelmingly powerful magical effect. This effect causes anyone on Faerun who thinks about the fate of the ancient Imiskar Empire to believe that it is utterly gone. Aboleth cities exist only in the Lower Dark, but where the Aboleths dwell, they rule. Their rule in Dupapan is absolute, but visitors who stumble blindly across the place might never even know the Aboleths are there. The city had population of 600, with 98% of those being scums. Scums are slaves of Aboleths and resemble humans and fish. In the hidden waters of the city, a large brood of Aboleths dream of extraplanar wonders. The city is very recent and seemed to rise from nowhere. In 1355, Dr. 2 Aboleths ate some Githyanki, who stopped by their pool to refill water flasks. The two monsters gained a wealth of knowledge from these astral dwellers, including plans for a Githyanki raid against an Illithid city. The plan was interesting enough, but knowledge of the astral plane was unearthly and sweet. As time passed, the two Aboleths spent more and more time living in their perfect recall of the Gith's astral experiences and tuning out their own material plane existence. One of the first cities founded by the Duergar after they escaped their thraldom beneath the Mind Flayers, Dunsparren is an old and powerful city that dominates the Underdark for scores of miles in all directions. 4 massive causeways link the city with apertures in the chasm walls. The citizens of the city are among the first Duergar in their mastery of psionics, the invisible art. Almost 2,000 years ago, at the height of its power, Dunsparren was the realm of the Duergar warrior queen, Duera, who wrested the secrets of the mind from the gods of the Mind Flayers. She earned divine ascension for her mighty deeds and wars of conquest, and she is still the special patron and protector of the city. The city of Sunken Spires is one of the largest and wealthiest trade centres of the Underdark. Its citizens constantly seek slaves to fill the ranks of its armies and work in its mines. In addition to captured drow and shield dwarves, slavers of the Vilhon Reach and Dragon Coast send a steady stream of human slaves into the depths in exchange for Duergar steel and gems. The city's long-standing martial tradition was reignited by the return of deep Duera's avatar in the form of the Queen Mother and Regent during the time of Troubles. In the 14 years since the Year of Shadows, the Duergar armies of the city have clashed with the surface-dwelling shield dwarves, the Illithids of Orendol and Drow. This constant war may cause overextension from its armies. Beneath the vale of the Haonthar River, between the North Dark and the northern marches of Old Shanathar, lies a tremendous abyss known as Thorgar. This yawning chasm is 50 miles across, although mighty buttresses rise up out of fathomless darkness at odd intervals to meet its ceiling. This is a place of fierce, never-ending winds so powerful that strong human warriors standing near its edge have been plucked off and hurled screaming into the horrible gloom of the chasm. The air rushing past, wind-scoured stone results in terrible high-pitched piping, deep groans, and nerve-shattering wails that seem almost purposeful. The wind in Thorgar is never below strong in intensity, and it often reaches hurricane force. These depths are riddled with planar connections to the second layer of pandemonium. In the land of the abyss, great castles that house Sladi, demons and strange elder things are carved into the mountain-sized columns. While many surface dwellers regard the Underdark as all the same, the wise adventurer prepares by studying what surface dwellers know about the realms below before venturing underground. Knowing what sorts of creatures and dangers lurk at what depths might mean the difference between life and death. The Underdark is divided into 3 general levels. The Upper Dark extends from the surface to a depth of around 3 miles. Varied races inhabit this region, including drow, dwarves, giants, all manner of goblinoids, orcs, and were-rats. Travel in the Upper Dark is relatively easy. Multiple paths to a single point usually exist, thanks to millennia of natural processes, volcanic activity, burrowing creatures, and various races cutting trails through the rock. The Middle Dark lies between 3 and 10 miles beneath the surface of Faerun. Most larger cities of Drow and Duergar are in the Middle Dark. Other inhabitants include aboleths, cloakers, Derro, grimlocks, and kuatoas. A few Mindflayer outposts are scattered throughout this level as well. Settlement communities in the Middle Dark commonly send trade caravans and raiding parties to the surface, or at least up to the Upper Dark trading centres such as Menzoberranzan and Ul Tul. Travel in the Middle Dark can be difficult. In many cases, it's simply not possible to go from one place to another because no caves or tunnels lead in the right direction. To overcome this drawback, many of the races that dwell at this depth are prolific portal builders and tunnelers. No place on Toril is as strange and dangerous as the Lower Dark. This level of the Underdark extends from 10 miles below the surface to unfathomable depths and features a degree of strangeness that would drive some surface dwellers insane. Few Upper Worlders ever descend to the Lower Dark, and few Lower Dark denizens want anything to do with the surface world. Some of the creatures in the Lower Dark, intelligent or otherwise, aren't even aware of a surface world. Several races commonly found in other parts of Faerun, dwarves, elves, gnomes, and orcs, can be found in the Underdark as well. However, the Underdark versions of these races vary wildly from their surface world cousins. Few would mistake a drow for a sun elf, a duergar for a shield dwarf, or an orog for an orc. The Underdark is also home to several races isolated by the depths of rock that shield them from others, or by the earthen vaults they live in. Their unique environments enable them to thrive, or at least to eke out an existence not possible on the surface. Of the cousins to the common races, drow are the most numerous in the Underdark. Several distinct ethnicities are represented among the drow, though Upperworlders and members of other races have a hard time telling one from another. Surface world dwarves sometimes infringe on the Underdark in their excavations, but their deep cousins, the Derro and the Duergar, are the true dwarven kind inheritors of the realms below. Surface gnomes are rare in the Underdark, but their cousins dwell in great cities deep underground. Planar touched also exist here and there in the Underdark. Earth Genasi, in particular, often ally with other humanoid races against the monstrous mind flayers and aboleths. Half-elves, halflings, humans, and surface elves are hardly represented at all in the Underdark. However, rumours persist of an Underdark human race. and those rumours have their basis in truth. The Underdark is a mysterious place, and there are countless mysteries to still explore, from the Beholder cities to the biggest Mind Flayer city currently within the Underdark. If you have any ideas on mysteries you want us to focus on, then leave a comment. Thanks for watching the video. Like and subscribe. Thanks, and see you all on the next video.